Welcome back, America. Senator Tom Cotton's with us. He's been ahead of the curve in so many respects when it comes to so many things, including foreign policy. And I want to talk to you, Senator, about Russia in particular. We have a lot of people out there making a lot of noise who don't know a lot. And they're mostly ideologues. You know, they're people who go on about what does Ukraine have to do with us, or we've provoked whatever is being provoked, or do you want to lose your kids in a war? Are you a chicken hawk? You know, all this kind of stuff. And I think to myself, there's a lot of static. It would be nice if we had leaders in this country who would talk to the American people and explain exactly what's going on without giving up national security secrets. So I want to ask you, why is it important that we stand up to Russia? Is it important for NATO? Is what happens to Ukraine important to the United States? What do you think?
Mark, what matters to every American is American strength and credibility to help preserve international stability and safety that we've done for decades. Because if aggressive powers like Russia and China and Iran think that they can test the resolve of America and they can get away with it, it only emboldens them to push even harder in ways that will threaten our core interests. Look what happened in 2013 after Barack Obama refused to enforce his own red line in Syria. Within months, you had Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine for the first time. You had China building and militarizing islands in the South China Sea to threaten American trade flows through there. You had Iran pushing even harder for what became a terrible nuclear deal. So if, say, Xi Jinping looks at Vladimir Putin, should Putin invade Ukraine and get away with it with nothing more than a few mealy-mouthed sanctions, he may decide it's time to invade Taiwan, a land where we have more than 22 times the amount of trade that we have with Ukraine, or that is vital to our military posture in the Western Pacific. So the reason that Ukraine matters is not just because Ukraine is a democracy, and we always want to stand with democracies where we can around the world, but because it is a dire, dire risk to America's credibility and strength if we simply let strongmen like Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping think that they can rewrite the international rules of the road.
Senator, we even have people who think NATO's day has come and gone. Who is it that, in the first instance, recommended and supported the idea of a North Atlantic Treaty Organization? And how does that benefit the United States after World War II?
Mark, NATO's day has not come and gone. It is fair to say that too many of our European partners in NATO, most notably Germany, are not pulling their weight. They're not spending what they need on defense. They're not pitching in right now on our shared common defense. We have a lot of great NATO partners, especially some of the newer NATO partners, countries like Poland or Hungary or the Baltic states. But the NATO alliance goes back to the lessons of World War I and World War II, that we needed a stable military alliance that wasn't an offensive alliance against Soviet Russia at the time, but a defensive alliance to make sure that we never had the kind of devastating world wars that we saw as a result of German aggression in World War I and World War II, or the possibility of Soviet-Russian aggression in the aftermath of World War II. It was very effective throughout the Cold War. I will say that it's gone somewhat far afield and outside of Europe since the end of the Cold War. What we need our European partners in NATO to do more than anything is to focus on European security, because the United States has to increasingly focus on China as the worst threat to international security and stability.
Let me ask you this. In 1994, Ukraine gave up all of its nuclear arms because Russia wanted the nuclear arms back. Obviously, after the Soviet Union collapsed as a result of Reagan's foreign policies, Ukraine broke off, as did all the captive states, all the captive nations. And so Ukraine agreed to that, but a memorandum was signed by Russia, the United States, and Britain, acknowledging Ukraine's sovereignty. And in fact, going so far as to say that it would not only be acknowledged, but it would be defended by these countries. Just as China has broken its deal with Britain with respect to Hong Kong, it appears Vladimir Putin, who for some reason is beloved by so many in our media and our politics, is breaking and may well break further the agreement that they made in 1994. These agreements aren't worth very much, are they?
Well, Mark, part of what we're doing with Ukraine now, what we started doing under President Trump, what we should have done under President Obama, is to provide them with the weapons that they need so the Ukrainian army can defend Ukrainian territory, whether it's anti-tank missiles starting under President Trump, hopefully soon the expansion of not just anti-tank missiles, but also air defense systems as well. That's part of fulfilling our commitments under that memorandum, as would be sanctions on something like the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline for Russia's menacing of Ukraine. But you raise a good point that if Ukraine still had nuclear weapons on its territory, it probably wouldn't have Russian troops on its territory. And again, this all goes back to Barack Obama in 2013 and 2014, first not enforcing his own red lines, being seen as a pushover by strongmen like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, and then being unwilling to send anything more than meals ready to eat and blankets to the Ukrainian army in the aftermath of the invasion of Crimea. When people like Vladimir Putin see that kind of irresolution and weakness from American president, what they saw from Barack Obama, unfortunately, what they've seen from Joe Biden over the last year, then they get more aggressive, they take more risks that ultimately will threaten the United States and our safety and our prosperity, which depends on international stability and security.
Speaking of Joe Biden, when we return, Senator, I want to ask you about the signals Joe Biden has sent throughout his short presidency. I'm not saying Joe Biden is evil, but I'm saying what he's done has been disastrous, if not unconscionable. And so when you have these evil regimes that have territorial ambitions, and they're building up their military, not just because of their neighbors, but because of the United States, is this not the weakest president in modern times who is provoking our enemies? And by provoking our enemies, I mean they see opportunity. After all, that's what evil people look for. So that's what I want to address when we come back. We'll be right back.
What's my safe flight story? My car is more than four wheels. It's my after-work decompression zone. So when my windshield broke, I searched for someone who really knew my car. I found the experts at Safelite Auto Glass. With their exclusive technology, they fixed my windshield, then recalibrated the camera attached to my glass, so my safety systems still work. Who knew that was a thing? Safelite has service I can trust.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
When I saw Balance of Nature, there was no chemicals. Everything was nature-oriented, and I said, wow, that sounds pretty good.
I just found that my energy level was starting to wane. So I was looking for an edge, and Balance of Nature has been that difference maker. What it's done for me personally has been a game changer. It has given me the energy and the foundation to attack life with vigor.
As I got into my 60s, I started noticing I just didn't quite have the same energy and drive. You know, I'd heard the Balance of Nature commercials on the radio a lot, and I thought that makes sense to me that we're not really getting all the fruits and vegetables that we should. And you know, I just took it. If ever there was a reason to start thinking about your health, this would be a good way to start.
Start your journey to better health by going to balanceofnature.com, and don't forget to use discount code Fox News.
Everybody has a flashlight, but can your flashlight do this? Or how about this? The Bell & Howell Tactical Flashlight can. Similar to flashlights used by elite military units, the Bell & Howell Tac Light can do things no ordinary flashlight can do. Look, this civilian flashlight puts out pathetic light, but our military-grade Tac Light, that's 22 times as bright. It's so bright, it can be seen up to 5 nautical miles away. And if that something that goes bump in the night turns out to be someone, only a Tac Light has a super bright strobe that can stun and disorient would-be attackers. A car battery will stop working in sub-zero temperatures, but even getting frozen in a block of ice couldn't make our Tac Light stop working. And it'll keep working when fully submerged in water, even 212-degree boiling water. It's tough enough to survive getting run over by a Humvee. Try that with a regular flashlight. Compact and lightweight, it goes where you go. so you can feel safe in dark places at night or just have the right light for emergency situations. And there's never been a better choice for camping, fishing, or hunting. What else? 5 preset modes. It's made of high-grade aircraft aluminum. I mean, there's just nothing like it on the market today. Here's how to get yours.
Tactical flashlights of this quality are selling right now for $60 or more, but Bell & Howell has slashed their price to just $19.99, and they'll even ship it to you free. Plus, every tack light comes with a 10-year warranty. Call now and you can get a second tack light. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
To get your tack light for only $19.99 with free shipping, call 1-800-644-8979. That's 1-800-644-8979, or visit us online at tritaclight.com. That's 1-800-644-8979, or visit us online at tritaclight.com. Call or log on now.
Welcome to Fox News Live. I'm John Scott. The United Nations Security Council is getting set to meet tomorrow as Russian troops continue to gather at the Ukrainian border. The U.S. and its allies will have a chance to confront Russia on its potential for an invasion and put significant diplomatic and financial pressure on the Kremlin. The head of Russia's Security Council is denying reports of an imminent invasion. President Biden says he will be moving up to 8,500 troops into Eastern Europe in the near future. Here at home, the Cincinnati Bengals have shocked the sports world, upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs with an overtime field goal to clinch a spot in the Super Bowl. They'll face the winner of tonight's ongoing match between the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm John Scott. Now, back to Life, Liberty, and Levin.
Welcome back, America. Senator Tom Cotton. The Biden presidency, one disaster after another. Do you agree with me? Our enemies look at this. They look for opportunities, and they see opportunities here given the record of this president, whether it's Afghanistan, Iran, or all the rest of it.
Yeah, Mark, weakness is provocative, and Joe Biden has given our adversaries like Vladimir Putin every reason to believe that he will respond to a crisis with weakness. That's what he did for 50 years as a senator and vice president, but it counts now that he's president. So if you look at how we got into this situation, I think it frames the question well. Vladimir Putin has been talking about pretext, red herrings. He can't let NATO include Ukraine. Well, there's no plan for Ukraine to join NATO. He can't tolerate military exercises in Ukraine. We don't conduct military exercise in Ukraine. The real reasons why Vladimir Putin has sparked this crisis is he wants to fulfill his long-held ambitions. First, he wants to reassemble the greater Russian Empire. And since the times of Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, there's no Russian Empire without Ukraine. Second, he wants buffer states without democratic governments, with puppet governments, as we've seen in Belarus and Ukraine and just this month, Kazakhstan. And third, he doesn't want any successful democracy on his borders because he's afraid his own people will look at democracies in places like Ukraine and Georgia and say, well, why can't we have that here in Russia? But again, Mark, those are long-held ambitions going back years for Vladimir Putin. So why has he sparked this crisis now? It's because Joe Biden has projected weakness to him for the last year and appeased him. He gave away the store in his first week in office on a one-sided nuclear arms control treaty. He waived sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. He basically looked the other way on the Colonial Pipeline hack. He released a Russian cyber criminal early at the request of Russia. And then, of course, the Afghanistan debacle exposed Joe Biden's inept and incompetent military leadership as commander-in-chief. It's that series of appeasement and weakness over the last year that has caused Vladimir Putin to think now is the time to go for the jugular in Ukraine.
Let me ask you a tough question. Do you think Vladimir Putin is impressed with most of the senior brass at the Pentagon after Afghanistan?
I don't know what his view of our senior military or intelligence leaders is, Mark, but I do know this. He views Joe Biden as a weak commander-in-chief, and he knows in our system the commander-in-chief is all important. And that's why he thinks he can get away with all these things, is that Joe Biden, as former Secretary of Defense under George Bush and Barack Obama, Bob Gates said, has been wrong about nearly every major foreign policy and national security decision over the last 40 years. Now you can make it 50 years as well. I think Vladimir Putin's view of Joe Biden is central to what's happening in Eastern Europe right now.
Then I assume you would also take the converse position, which is Vladimir Putin's view of Donald Trump determined whether Vladimir Putin would do to Ukraine what he's doing today. In other words, for all the attacks on Donald Trump and his foreign policy and so forth, it seems to me that he was following in the footsteps very much of a Reagan doctrine. Peace through strength, draw the red lines when you need to, mean it, and build up the United States military. Wasn't that basically the Trump policy?
Yeah, Mark, we should draw red lines with great caution and rarely. But when we draw them, we have to enforce them ruthlessly. And isn't it ironic, after 4 years of the Democrats and the media screaming Russia, Russia, Russia about Donald Trump, that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine the last time we had a Democratic president, and he's on the verge of invading Ukraine now that we have another Democratic president, but he didn't so much as mass forces on Ukraine's border when Donald Trump was president. Let's recall a couple episodes from the Trump presidency that sent the right signal to Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and the Ayatollahs. Remember when he had Xi Jinping at Mar-a-Lago and they were eating chocolate cake, and he told Xi, "We just launched airstrikes against Syria." I bet that caught Xi Jinping's attention. Or when we had a chance to kill Qasem Soleimani, the world's greatest terrorist mastermind in Iraq, traveling there from Iran, and President Trump didn't hesitate to take that strike. Again, I bet that got a lot of attention in Moscow and Beijing, to say nothing of Tehran. That's the way you project strength, that you're willing to engage in limited military actions and conflicts, as Ronald Reagan did as well, all with the view to avoiding larger military conflicts.
And for all the talk about Trump the isolationist, and he wanted to undermine NATO and all the rest, NATO got stronger under Trump. More of the countries contributed more money. The United States military was built up under Trump. As you say, Putin stayed in his box. Communist China was very nervous about what's taking place in Iran. Iran was crumbling. And now in 12 short months, it's all been reversed. And I don't know if we're at the precipice of war or not, but it's one damn ugly situation. Senator Cotton, I want to thank you very much for being such an important voice out there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark.